Hello, everyone. This is Capital Signal, and I'm Saksham. And today we're in conversation with Jordan. Jordan has two companies. One is Fleet, which is a AR fashion kiosk company, and other one is the sports betting company, which teaches people who want to get into sports betting that it's not just luck but also numbers. And we're gonna hear more about both of them from Jordan now. So before we got cut off, what we were talking about is the sports betting company that I've been working on recently.
Yep, I'm listening.
All right. So, yep. So, what I got from the whole conversation we had is that what it does essentially is that, it basically teaches the people that want to get into sports betting that, it's not all about the luck, but also numbers.
100%. And essentially, it'll teach people how to sports gamble from a profitable standpoint, not just from
Right.
just randomly placing bets. It's going to be strategic on how you place your bets. The
So,
software, the software will be able to teach people how to do that.
right. So guide me through that. Like how does it do that exactly?
Yeah. So you have terms like EE betting, arbitrage betting. All of these things are out there already. We're just going to be offering it in the service. These things have already existed. So how I'm necessarily going to do it, I haven't released it yet. So what I'm going to be doing is in the next couple of weeks, I plan on like fully releasing it out to the public. So how I'm essentially and what I'm gonna do to make it unique, I cannot essentially say that out loud or just in the public. I know I hate to be that person,
Oh no,
but
no, it's all
it and if it was like Flea, right? It was just way more components to it, and you can't just do this overnight. It would be a little bit different, but you can kind of do this overnight if you wanted to. Like if you just sat
right.
back this, you could do it, but this is what I enjoy to do. So I'm gonna do this, you know, whether whatever I'm doing, right? This is what I'm
Mhm.
gonna do. So and that's what I was kind of telling you, right? It's not essentially like it's not essentially having an idea that's going to make you rich. That shouldn't be your mindset, right? You should be thinking
Right.
what can you make around you be better, and that's the idea. That's where the product is going to come from.
So would you say that, you know, it's not like, we should not look for the next $1 million idea, but the problem that you might be facing or someone else might be facing around you?
Exactly. So just think about a problem that you need to solve, right? And think of it from a consumer standpoint. Because if you're thinking it from a customer standpoint or from a consumer standpoint, and you're solving their problem, that's where the idea is. That's where you can make money from. Because then you can say, "Oh, once I solve this problem, I'm going to charge you X amount to solve this problem," right? Whether it
Mhm.
be a product or whether it be a service, right? You're solving a problem or an issue. So
Right.
that's where the differentiator and where you can essentially make your business model.
Right. Oh, I mean, I should have asked this earlier, but do you have a name for it already, or are you still deciding on one?
I'm still deciding on one. I have a couple of ideas, but I haven't really put it all the way together. But I haven't decided on a name yet. I'm just testing it out because what I'm doing is looking at my betting strategy and seeing how do I process my bets is seeing how I can relay that in the software space. So once I do that and get that process all the way together across different markets, then I'll be able to release it. So right now the product is already out there, already developed. It's just now I'm testing it out basically. So I'm doing all of my test research essentially.
When I was talking about Flea, it's more into a B2B space.
Yes.
Whereas the like the sports gambling thing that you're talking about around right now, it's a service, but I would say it's more into the D2C space. So how do you think that the transition from B2B to D2C was for you?
I can say it's been actually a lot easier of a transition, and for the same reason I told you, it's the same exact reason, right? So if you coming from a space, let's take it out of just for me, right? Let's say like there's just this random guy that was a business owner and he's grew up in a family business, right? He knows all these connections, he knows different businesses. So he knows what it takes to point the right pieces together, right? Solve the right problem and put the right people in the room, right? So let's just pick a random industry, right? Let's pick oil, right? Let's pick something like oil, something that's coveted, right? You
Mm-hmm.
can't really just get into the oil business, essentially, right? That's just not
Yep.
something that me and you can just start up and say, "Hey, we're just going to start an oil company." This is not
Yeah.
how. So let's just say us as the regular people, right? We wanted to try to start an oil company. We would have to know all of those people who's going to fund the companies, who knows how to run the companies, right? You know, who are actually good employees that have worked in the industry, right? So we got to schedule, we got to meet, we got to call all of these people, right?
Right.
It's,
Networking is like the
it,
thing, like
imagine imagine how long of a time that takes just to meet those people in
right.
right? So now you're playing a different game. You're playing such a different game to the point where it's like, yo, I'm not even in the ball game yet.
Yep.
And essentially I'm just working my ass off day and night. Like you're working your ass off scheduling these meetings just to meet these people, just to even get in the room, just to even get in the door. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? So you should always be trying to break down make it as an even playing field as much as you can, right? As much as possible because it's already an uneven scale out here. It's already an all these industries are already monopolized. Any industry that you think of, there's already somebody who's made $100 million or plus in the industry already, right? So we gotta stop thinking like it's like we're gonna be the next them. No, we have to be the next innovation. We have to be the 2.0, the 2.5, the 3.0, the 3.5, the 4.0. You get what I'm saying? We got to
Mm-hmm.
be the newer iteration of what that is. And the thing that you have, right? The thing that I have, but is fading right now, right? Is guess what? Is youth. You you need to solve a problem that's gonna be for your generation. That's why we need entrepreneurs because we need different entrepreneurs for different generations because different entrepreneurs are going to solve different problems.
Right.
You understand? So it's
Mm-hmm.
always going to take newer entrepreneurs in newer generations to think of newer problems. You guys are going to solve newer problems in the AI industry, right? Because once we start to integrate ourselves with AI so much, now that we're going to start to see pain points in AI. Now
Yep.
you guys are going to start to figure out how can we make AI more efficient versus our generation, which was just exposed to it, right? So
Right.
we were just exposed to it. Now you guys live in it. So now you have to figure out something that is essentially more efficient for us to live with it with AI, right? So that's the next iteration and the next step in it. That's how we always need to be thinking about this. That's why we have angel investors. That's why we have VCs because they know that you are the product. They know that
Right.
you are the innovation, right? Your 20-year-old mind, right? You guys that are put in a room and you guys are all young, fresh minds. You
Mhm.
guys are the product that's going to be fueling these next generations, right? So
Right.
that's the mindset that you got to think of.
Okay. Yeah, I get that. I mean, so you don't have to be the next them, but you have to be the next you.
And that's why and that's why I was saying, right, like, think of products that are out here, you can make them better, right? Because it's not necessarily you taking their idea, you being the next Jeff Bezos. You thought of a product and you made it better. So it's essentially your product because somebody has something that they don't have. But guess what? This is how the game goes, right?
Mhm.
So essentially, now you got to play cat and mouse. So when you have a good product, right, that could be easily usurped or bought out or copied. Now you have to say, hey, look, now that I have this product, just this MVP, right? How do I
Right.
build on top of it? How do I add another service next to it that makes it hard to compete with, right? So now that I have this good service, what do I add it with, right? Do I add more AI with it? Do I add AI integration with it to help it, more interactive for the consumer, right? Do
Right.
I um do I add customer service to give it more of a home feel? Or do I add, more rewards for the customer, right? What makes my product more valuable than the next person's product? Because essentially they're all the same product.
Yep.
And they're all the same product and service. You're going to get into the industry where everybody has something a little similar, but something a little different. Business always has to be out there, standing out and competing. That's the different. Once you get yourself in the door, right? You have to now essentially, again, once you meet those people, right? You got
Mhm.
those connections. You put them all in a room, right? That's that next step, being competing, right? Competing against
Right.
your competitors.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, I know you touched on this before, but when you say that, you took so much time with Fleet because you couldn't find the right team, right?
Yeah.
Is it only because of that reason? Like, was that the only major reason, or is it more so like, you were not in the right space, or you just didn't have enough funding to, just create that team, or maybe maybe an angel investor or a VC could have helped you.
Great question. Great question. So even just with that last part you said, that was my thought process. Is like if I had a VC to invest into me, if I had an angel investor, I could stop whatever I was doing and fully focus on Fleet. But the problem was that I wasn't fully focusing on Fleet to begin with, right?
Okay.
Because if I was fully focusing on Fleet, I would be doing this in my sleep. I would be doing this every day without thinking about it, right?
Yep.
So these VCs are gonna find you. You don't most of the time when you have a good idea and you have a good product, these people are gonna find you. You don't really have to search for these people. They're gonna see that your business is thriving. They're gonna see that you blew up on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, whatever, right? And they're gonna say, "Hey, look, this is a good business because I want to invest into this business." So that's the thin line between what makes you successful, what makes you get up and running and get an angel investor in front of you, right? Because I had angel investors in front of me. I had those opportunities and I could not convey the message to them completely because it was always just me sitting in one room trying to convince this grand idea, right? Instead of it just being, hey, look, I did this. I built the MVP. I went to this store, I went to this store, I went to this store. This
Right.
store, like this store wants to order it next week. This store wants to order it next month. Once they start to see that pattern going and they see that you got
Mhm.
your shit together, that's when they're gonna give you some money. They're not gonna give you some money when you keep talking about, I have an idea. I have just this great idea. Please give me some money so I can just go explore this great idea. Because that's
So
all here.
wait, so you're saying that to get, like angel investors in or VCs in, having a prototype is always the best option.
100%. 100%. Because think of it this way, man. Like think of it like this. And this works across all platforms, right? But I think this is like the easiest way I could convey it. So think about an artist right out here, right? Like just a like a pop star, or let's even think about like Justin Bieber, how he blew up, right? He blew up on YouTube, right?
Right.
He didn't get discovered until he had millions of views, right? So he had millions of views first, and then he got discovered, right?
Mhm.
So we shouldn't be thinking about, I need to get discovered. I need to get signed first. No, you need to blow up first. You need to blow up your community first. You need
Yep.
to you need to get your product out there first, get the people involved in it, and then blow up, and then you get to see who's out there, who's gonna be a good fit for you, right? Because this works in twofold. Because one, if you're so hungry on trying to receive a certain amount of a check, you could be cutting yourself out of more money that you should be earning, right? Prime example, if you sat there and you didn't get an angel investor that said, "Hey, I want to give you 50 or 100 grand." If you got some money, it comes with some stipulations. It's essentially a loan. It's not a grant money, it's not free money. You have to pay that money back. You have to pay that money back with interest,
Yep.
right? So there's not this grand concept and scheme that there's just this there's just this company or this group out here that's gonna cut a check, and now you get to just go and live your life and go and live your dream, you know? That's like for the 1% of the 1%, that get to get that little opportunity, that little nugget, and that little chance in life. And that's why I said it's so important to put your head in the game first. Put your head in the game and be the customer. Be the customer first. Get a grand idea that's going to work, and then build things around it. And then now, when you look up, you got this grand idea, but you have a community around it. You have services that can service the community. You have things that are working and inner working, and people that believe in your business already, right? So when you look up, you done built this whole ecosystem that people are now interested in. They're now tuned into it, right? They see you
Mhm.
popping. They see you over here. They see you over here at this podcast. They see you doing this. They see you doing that, right? That's what they want to see. They want to see the motion. They want to see the wheels turning. They want to
Yep.
see that they want to see these wheels keep churning. And after a certain time, they know that the wheels are just going to keep turning more and more and more and more. That's what they want to see. They don't want to see somebody that's sitting still and don't get nobody around them. Don't
Yep.
get nobody
Yeah.
around them. This is
Mhm.
such a but this is such a grand idea. But why is nobody around you if this is such a grand idea? Why don't you have a community built already if this is such a grand idea? If this is such a cool idea, why don't you have people following you already, right?
Right.
But that's the key right there.
You know what? I'm glad you touched on that. Like building the community around you and around your product,
Mhm.
because that actually builds me up very well for my next question, which is when when you transition from a B2B to a D2C company, like strictly speaking from marketing's like point of view, because like for B2B, it is more of a sales kind of thing. Because as you said, you need to sell yourself, you need to sell everything about you to
Mhm.
the person that you're selling to. Because it's more of a business to business, like like when you say you're selling to one person or you're selling to, a limited number of people, because there are only
Yep.
so many people that are in that
Yep.
workspace. But when you
Yep.
go for D2C, you're selling to anyone and everyone who's out there.
Exactly. Yep.
So how does that transition solely from the marketing point of view work for you? So like how do you, cater to a bigger audience? How do you build that community up?
So I think the first step in that is you always got to be curious, right? And curious in developing the skills that you don't have, right? Being cognizant of that, right? You got to know the things that you're not good at so that you can either hire somebody who's good at it,
Mhm.
people and services and things around you so that it can kind of alleviate the things that you're not good at, right? So for me, in a prime example, I never really wanted to get in front of a camera and market my business. Eventually, I'm going to have to do some of that, but AI and social media and all these things help circumvent a lot of the heavy lifting I would have had done had it been, 10 years ago. You know what I'm saying? So now it's in a much easier space to market yourself, but marketing is going to be the biggest thing, whether it's B2B or B2C, it don't matter. But it is a little bit, I would say easier, right? It just kind of depends on who you know, right? And how you can get the message out there.
Yep.
Simple. And so the thing that I've learned about just the industry that I'm working in is that I definitely have to put myself out there in the social media space. Even though I don't want to necessarily do it, it's important because nobody's going to convey and sell my product the way I'm going to sell it. Right. I need to sell my story first. But
Yeah.
the thing is that I have a cool story, right? I get to actually say that I made $12,000 in one night, right? So
Mhm.
if I was to say that on my Instagram story or on Twitter or anywhere, I could track attention towards that because they're gonna say, either this guy's bluffing, he's full of shit, right? Or how did he do this, right?
Uh-huh.
How did he actually do this?
It's a hook.
So, yep, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was saying that when you say that, you have a story and you can when you put it on, that's the
Mhm.
thing that people will think, that either this guy is, full of shit, or
They-
he is actually onto something. So it's like, it's this conversation starter. It's like straight up, it's like this hook that, when you see a story, like let's say I see a story like that, and I see a man talking about, making $12,000 about doing, like, after doing something that not a lot of people do, or like not is what not, like it's not usually done, right?
Exactly.
And then
Exactly.
you hit the jackpot, and you get 70, like you get like $12,000 in one night, and then you actually start studying about it, and like it's a whole story. You've got a
Mhm,
whole thing back there.
mhm.
Right. So when I see someone talking about that on social media, I would say it builds credibility.
Exactly.
The thing that I had my clothing brand. So when I did start doing a little bit of social media marketing for it.
Mhm.
Now, the main problem that I had with most of my posts or reels was that people would not watch the whole thing. People have a very short span of attention. So they would watch it for like 3 seconds, 4 seconds, 5 seconds, maybe 10 seconds and scroll down. And I would say that is mostly because I didn't have a hook like that.
Mhm.
But, with something like that, like straight up starting off, like I made $12,000 in one year. Now you've got my attention.
Mhm.
Now I'm in there. Now I'm going to watch the whole thing. Me.
And that's a great point right there. You pointed that out is a hook in whatever your marketing strategy is, right? And so and that's where Flea kind of comes in, right, with the augmented reality. But the thing is that with clothing brands, and it's a gift and a curse because there's just a lot of people that have the idea of having their own clothing brand, right?
Yeah.
So
That's everything.
yeah, it's just the reality that and clothing brand is one of those beautiful things where if you're really truly passionate about it, it really shouldn't matter. Like
Mhm.
my clothing brand, this is my clothing brand that I have on.
Okay.
Parlay, PRLY. I'll send you some of my hoodies and stuff, but that's one of my things, right? Because I started off as a clothing brand owner, and I realized how hard it was to pitch and to get that hook, right? And one thing that I've realized was going to differentiate my clothing brand is that once I tell my story and
Mhm.
how I convey my story, right? So that's how you kind of got to think about it. You got to tell your story because other people are going to relate to it,
Yep.
right? Or going to want to relate to it. Just how with my marketing strategy, right, in the $12,000, people are going to want to relate to making $12,000 in one night, right?
Yep.
Just somebody's going to want to relate, like me and you. Me and you want to relate to having a successful clothing brand.
Yep.
So that's the element that our generation and the newer generations are so good with, and that's why you see more of the YouTuber day in the lifers, those people blowing up with their clothing brands because they're not selling the clothing brand. They're selling that you could be a normal person and vlog your life, and you know your clothing brand is going to blow up through that. You're going to build a community through that because they're selling the idea, right, of being a successful clothing brand owner. So that's why they go get, soon as they go get 100,000 subscribers, they go get a Hellcat, or they go get the BMW M3, right? Or they go
Hmm.
get the high rise downtown because that's their selling point. That's how they think they can sell to their community that, hey, I am successful. Buy my clothing products. Buy what I'm selling you, right? Essentially. So the thing I like about the clothing brands that I like is that I don't know who built those clothing brands. I don't know their stories. I don't know why they even I don't know who made Palace. I don't know why they made Palace. They have just some of the cleanest designs. Palace clothing brand, they have some of the cleanest designs. I love their concept. And I don't even know who the hell the person is who made the damn clothing brand.
Right.
But it doesn't matter, right? Because I am somebody who just enjoys quality product.
Yep.
If I enjoy the quality of the product, right, I'm going to continue to purchase those same products. So we got to think about, even from our perspective, right, especially as a clothing brand, we got to break it down from that perspective. And that's
Right.
why that's why I keep saying it's so much easier. And that's what I'm really trying to get to you. It's easier to start a business in something that you're already immersed in, because you already think about all the external possibilities that could happen anyways. You already have it in your locked in your brain, so it's nothing that you have to relearn. You already know these things, right?
Mhm.
So that's why I did the sports betting thing, because I know these things. I've been doing this for such a long time now, since I was like 20 years old, 21 years old. I'm 29 now. So I've been doing sports betting for quite a long time now. So I had to have learned something about it. I had to eventually had gotten good at it at some point. So even with the clothing brand, eventually I found things that I was good at and that I wanted to eventually be good at with my clothing brand, and how I want to convey that clothing brand. Now it's probably going to be much easier for me to sell my clothing brand now, because now I can sell the idea of being a successful business owner and a successful clothing brand owner, right? It's going to be so much easier for me to sell that. At first, right, I had to sell me. It had to just be me, and I'm not a community, right? But
Yep.
What does Palace have around them? What is Supreme? You know Supreme.
Everyone knows Supreme.
Yeah, right. So when you think of Supreme, right, you don't think of just one person, right?
No.
You think of everybody who's ever worn Supreme, not
Right.
just not just the clothing brand owner, right? You think of everybody who purchased it. You think of it, like your friends who like are clamoring over it, right? Or
Yeah.
Chrome Hearts. You think about the community. You're not thinking about just one or two individuals within that business, right? So if I could advise you on anything, man, and this was the other thing too. I got this from Corey Gilkey. He started the brand Leaders in Chicago. Actually, he worked with all of the most popular Chicago artists in our generation and my generation. From Chief Keef to Chance the Rapper, all of
Yeah.
those people. And the one thing he told me was like, the thing that helped him was that he was in the communities. That's
Right.
what separated that's what separated his brand from other brands. That's what kept people purchasing his product versus everybody else's product. He invested into the community. he was immersed inside of the community that he was in. So when you talk about hip hop and you talk about fashion and hip hop and all of those things being immersed together, he was in it from the beginning to the end. He lives and breathes that, right? So when you talk about those things, you have to mention him, right? When you look up Joe Fresh Goods, when you talk about anybody in Chicago, they're gonna mention Corey because he was just such an integral part of the Chicago fashion industry and as a whole. When you talk about Virgil, you know about Virgil, right? Everybody knows Virgil, right? He came through Corey. He made his first products, his first T-shirts, he screen printed. He made them at Corey's shop at
Okay.
Leader in Chicago, right? But
Okay.
you don't get that without being immersed in the community. You just can't get one without the other. You cannot be a poser in a community and think that you're gonna make money off of a community and you're a poser. People are gonna know that you're posing, right? If you go into right, if you go into the NBA and you're trying to say, "Hey, I'm the best NBA player," right? And
Mm-hmm.
you're not the best NBA player out there, you're not busting people's ass. They
You did say this before that you're done with the prototype with the sports betting app and everything.
Yep.
So where do you stand with it now? So like, are you looking for investors or
So the
you just
beautiful
want to go
part
on yourself? You looking to make a team right now?
so the beautiful part about the software piece and creating software and not just such a complex industry like a complex solution like Fleet is that I can work at this at my own pace, right? So I can hire people at my own pace. Eventually, I am going to have to look to hire some people, but it's more so going to be for like data analyst purposes to make sure all of the data on the website is accurate at all times and is reporting data correctly on the app and on the website. So I am going to be hiring somebody soon
Okay.
and eventually sometime this year. But the beautiful part is that I built it all with AI. So AI is sort of my employee right now. So until I get to that point where I can get some revenue going. So that's the beautiful part about it. I can build passive revenue. I can actually start a business, get
Mm-hmm.
revenue coming in, and then actually hire somebody, right? Hire, a real candidate. That's the beautiful part about AI and where we're at in society today.
All right. Okay. So um before we get to the end of it, I just want to do something with you. I'm just gonna name a couple of, let's say, rating POEs, and I want you to rate those subsections for
Okay.
Flea versus for the sports betting app that you have right now.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So let's say idea and rate it out of five. Rate it like 5 star, 4 star, 3 star, 2 star, 1 star. One
Uh-huh.
being the lowest, five being the highest, of course. Rate out of
Mhm.
five. Which do you think was a better idea, Flea or the sports betting one?
Hmm.
And I want you to be completely like rock hard honest about it.
That's a great question. To be honest with you, from my perspective, I'm gonna give you a short answer and I'm gonna give you a long answer.
All right.
My short answer is that I don't my ideas that I really think are good ideas, I don't
Mhm.
really think one idea is better than the other because if they solve a problem, I just think it's a good idea. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And I think it's just all about and then this is where the long answer comes in. It's all about where the idea meets the
Mhm.
opportunity. The
Okay.
idea the idea has to meet the opportunity. You don't make money unless somebody needs or wants your product, right?
Right.
So the
Mhm.
idea has to meet the opportunity. So 10 years ago, we wasn't talking about AI.
Right.
We weren't talking about augmented reality. We weren't talking about virtual reality. So essentially, I couldn't make a kiosk. I I would have to be a genius. You know,
Mhm.
like
Yep.
a Harvard genius, and I knew that. I knew that then. I knew that 10 years ago when I thought
Mhm.
about all of these things. I'm like, "Yo, I don't have the I just don't have it. I didn't come up with that." And I knew I didn't wanna go to school to learn about doing it. I just did it. I didn't think I felt like my time could be better served learning how to be, learning how to actually run a company, right? There's multiple people in a company. It's not just the smart people who are developing and doing the things every day. Somebody has to manage those people, right? So that's the other thing. Don't feel like you have to, be good at everything, right?
Right.
But so short answer is that no, I really can't say one idea is better than the other. I think as of right now, I'm going to say the sports app is a little bit better because of the industries. If you think
Right.
about the if we think about the industries, Flea is in an industry where augmented reality already exists. You can look at glasses. You can try on glasses already from different websites
Yep.
already. So
Mhm.
that already exists through a website, through a screen, right? So
Yep.
that kind of already exists. There are some aspects about Flea that are not existing out here that will still be very cool to see out here. But the industry in itself, it's getting to a state where you could see that the next product or two is going to reach you're going to start to see its maturity, right? You're
Right.
going to see the highest we can kind of reach with augmented reality, just like
Right.
with any product, right? Like with the flip phone. When we created the flip phone, we did everything.
BlackBerry.
Yeah, exactly. We did everything we could do to the flip phone. We added a camera to it. We added Bluetooth to it. We were able to go on the internet with it, right? At some point, we we just grown out of flip phones and we
Mhm.
went into touch phones, right?
Yep.
So that's exactly what augmented reality is going to do, and that's what it's doing now. We're exhausting all of the possibilities that we could do with augmented reality. So
Mhm.
we is going to be a part of that, to where it's going to be one of those products to where it realizes the potential of what it could be, right? It's gonna be a company or 2 that's gonna take it to the level that it needs to take it to, and then they're gonna be successful, and then we're gonna go see, okay, who's gonna top them? Who's gonna be better than
Right.
them?
Competitive
Like
market.
exactly. So now we can even look at that in like the app like Apple, right? Like who's really gonna top Apple and touch phones? Like nobody's gonna touch them that this generation and that technology, they have mastered touch screens,
Yep.
period. You know
Mhm.
what I'm saying? So, so just to answer your question, I see that eventually that's going to be faced. That industry is reaching a maturity. The sports betting industry is just getting started. We haven't even seen the full 50 states approve sports betting as a whole. So
Right.
there, so the sports betting as a whole has not even been why it's not even widely known in the United States yet, and it's
Mhm.
widely used. So now we got to think about 5, 10 years from now when it is across 50 states, right? All of those newer gamblers, all of those, for people that don't necessarily that are coming up gambling differently, right? They're going to be a newer way of gambling. There are people out here that gamble and don't even watch the sport, right? Before that used to sound crazy. The whole point of sports gambling is for you to be sports like watching it
Watch
live
this. Oh, yeah.
watching it live, right, and emotionally betting and putting in a
Mhm.
parlay. We're going to see a whole new set of gamblers that gamble and don't even watch the sport, don't even fully watch the sport. I know that, and you know how I know that? I know that because I'm one of those gamblers, right?
Okay.
I'm betting on a game right now and I'm not watching it. right? So that's where you're gonna see newer forms of it in the industry being formed. And when that's happening, you know that you're in a newer industry that's just really starting to become of itself, which is exciting, right? Because then that means you could be that next person in that industry that's continuing to push it forward. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
that's that's what I like about this newer idea is that I'm immersing into something that I do, whether whatever I'm doing it regardless, and I know about it, and I'm an expert in it. And then two, it's in a growing industry. This industry is growing, and and at a rapid pace. So that's what. But augmented reality is too, though. So it's like that's why I said none of them are really a bad idea.
All right. So, all right. So, like, strictly from rating perspective, from my point of view,
So
I would.
I would say definitely rating. If you just to answer your question, rating perspective, I would definitely give the sports betting like a 4 or
Okay.
5 right now, and then I would give Flea like a 3, like a
All right.
solid.
Honestly, I would, for me, I would keep both of them at a four. But I think that that might be because I am more into the fashion space and I'm not that connected with the sports betting space. But the
Yeah,
idea sounds really good to me. So, like, if you, like, when I'm hearing you talking about it, it it just feels like it could be something that, I could also do.
right.
So from my point of view, I think I would keep both of them at four for me.
Yeah. And that's the exciting part, right? When you when you do have because as an entrepreneur, you are gonna have multiple ideas, and that's okay.
Yeah.
That is totally okay. And that's what I was talking to AJ about too, is like it's okay to do multiple things and be good at multiple things. You don't have to just strap yourself down to being a clothing brand and being good at your clothing brand. You could be good at other things too, right? So just don't limit yourself and have hobbies, right? Have hobbies outside of what you do rather than just making money. Did it freeze? Can you hear me?
Hey. All right. So the next, like the next point that I want to ask you is, well, what do you think you would rate both of them in marketability? So, um, I mean, it's a very different kind of market for both of them, with one being a D2C brand, one being a one being a B2B one. But
Mhm.
if you had to, just like rate both of them for marketability, what would you rate both of them?
Marketability for the sports betting, I would say 2 for the for Flea because it's gonna be hard to market towards a lot of government officials. When you think about kiosks, we gotta think about real estate and land and positioning, right? And so that immediately goes into politics. And that's what I was saying. You gotta make it are you gonna make are you gonna make your business super hard for yourself or are you gonna make it easy for yourself? I am somebody who I know some people who know some people, right?
Right.
Who can get me in the door of some politics, right? But it's am I in that community to where I'm not just reliant on one person to get me in the door. I'm just in that industry, so I just know hella people, right? So I know hella aldermans, I know a lot of the mayors in the town, like
Right.
I know JB Prisker, right? So
Right.
like all these people give me who can get me in front of the owners in Soldier Field because Soldier Field holds a lot of concerts, right? Or
Mhm.
just who can get me in front of people who own Lollapalooza because
Right.
that's that's who could be like a main customer of mine. But until I get in front of those people, it's just really just cat and mouse. It's just ears, right? It's just
Right.
until I get in front of my customer and my customer is paying for my product, this is all just in the air. you know?
Yeah.
So I would have to get in front of them. So I would have to rate Flea marketability 2, just because there are different factors in Flea, and for Flea has to completely disrupt the industry. It has to disrupt it. So it can't just be it can't just be something that's good for the community, but it's not really disrupting nothing. Disrupting is when you can actually it has the marketability, it has the publicity behind it because it's such
Mhm.
so that's another.
Yeah. All right. So for me, I think I would rate the sports betting thing at a 4 and Flea, but I think that's mostly because, as you said, that a B2B business needs a lot of networking, and Flea, especially with,
Yep.
with having a small market like that, or like not a very elaborate market, would
Uh-huh.
need a lot of high profile networking for you to get the product like out there.
Yep.
And you cannot sell it to, you know, like a person that you meet walking on the street.
Yep. And
Can do that with the betting app. So
100%. But I mean, the good thing about once you are in those doors is that those businesses are really good customers.
right.
So it's a give and a take into it, right?
Mhm.
Because consumers, regular people like you and me, we are more likely to cancel a subscription at any given
Right.
point
Yep. I agree.
versus a business who might actually need the product, right? So that's a whole nother thing.
All right. Okay, so the next one I would ask you is memorability. And when I say memorability, it's more so like, when you hear about it or when you see it, or, when you come upon it, there are some products, some things that, just you just see them once, you hear about them once, and they just stay in your mind. So which one do you think is more memorable?
I'll have to say Flea because if done right, it can definitely be a really cool product. My problem with Flea is that um with technology, you have to be careful.
Mm.
Just like just like with any new shiny thing, with any new technology, it's like a shiny toy. We gonna play with it, we gonna mess with it around, we gonna say
Yeah.
this is the best toy ever,
Uh-huh.
and then eventually we gonna put that toy down, and then
Mhm.
we're gonna pick up another toy.
Yep. Yep.
So that's the danger of technology. That's the
Right.
danger of building a new technology that you think might be useful because
Mhm.
it might not just really be all that useful in somebody's day-to-day life, right?
Right.
Memorability, I would have to give memorability a 4 for Flea because it could leave a lasting impact, definitely on the B2B side, because it does have a B2C component, but that's a little bit more extensive and
Right.
but the sports betting, I would give memorability 3, like average.
Yep.
And but my purpose is for it to serve to be in a certain space and fill a certain space within the community that's not being serviced, right? So that's where I would give it a 3.
All right. So again, strictly speaking from memorability perspective, I would agree with the 3 on the sports betting thing, and I would actually give Flea a 5 for this because, like if I walk into a concert, if I walk into a mall, and like if I'm let's say I'm in a Travis concert, right, and I'm
Mhm,
seeing like Cactus Jack merch on a kiosk, I'm able to try it on myself before actually spending like $200 for it. You
mhm.
know, I feel like that'll change everything for me
Yeah,
because, and like I'll actually have that in mind. Or let's say like if I'm going to mall and I'm able to try on clothes before actually stepping into the store,
mhm,
um, I feel like that is a mall that I would remember as opposed to some other mall where I actually have to go into all the stores. So I
right.
think from memorability perspective, I would give Flea a 5.
I agree. I agree. I would agree with that. And everything has a birth stage,
Yeah.
a stage where it's thriving, and then a stage where it's dying, right? So,
Mhm.
I think it's beautiful. I honestly, Flea is one of those things I always told myself I have to get it out there, no matter what or how long it takes, I have to get it out there. At first, it was just to show myself that I could do it. But now that I know I could do it, it's not just that. It's just, hey, I just want to see this out there, I just want to see this out there. I want to see how it's gonna survive. So it's super important for me. But from a humanistic perspective, you have to put yourself first, right?
Mhm.
Because you only have one life. You can only be young once, right?
Yep.
So that's why I say it's so much more important to find things. And I know it sounds so cliche, like to find things that you're passionate about, but it will save you. It won't just save you the time. It'll save you regret. It'll
Mhm.
save you those moments of, man, once you find that thing you're really passionate about, you're gonna be like, man, I could have been doing this my whole life,
Yep.
literally, and not have an issue. Like I could have started this at 5 and could
Mhm.
have been doing this my whole life and not had seen a problem with it.
Right.
When you find that, that's the thing you gotta keep doing, and you just gotta keep crafting and keep getting better at, because that's the thing that's gonna that's gonna push you, especially if you're an entrepreneur. If you're not an entrepreneur, you're not thinking about business, you're not thinking about owning a business, maybe that's not so important. You can still be really good at something and not be an owner and not be a business in that industry, right? But if you are a business and a business minded and thinking person, definitely just do something that you're passionate about, because it makes everything else you're doing in the business world 1,000 times easier. 1,000 times easier.
Right. All right. So before we say goodbyes,
Yeah.
um, what is one advice, like, now that you know you're a seasoned warrior in business and everything, and
Hmm.
you've come a long way from Flea.
Hmm.
So what is one advice that you would give to someone who's just starting out, that adhere to this one thing in life, or one thing, like one rule, and you would be better than the competition you're starting with?
To make myself better than the competition, right?
I
You said.
mean, basically, so like let's say that I am a 20-year-old starting a business.
Mhm.
What would make me better than other 20-year-olds starting a business? Like what should I know that will keep me ahead of them?
You know, don't ever stop learning. Don't ever stop learning about your business. Don't ever stop learning about your industry. Like, just be a master of your industry. Be a master of what's around you and what you're trying to build. I think that's like the most important thing. It's gonna make you stand out in any room, right? Any room that you stand in, especially the rooms that are talking about this specific idea,
Mhm.
you're gonna shine in those rooms, right?
Yep.
Any entrepreneurship space, you're gonna shine in that space because you're the spokesperson for your business and for your industry, right?
Right.
You're an expert in that industry. People are gonna listen to you. They're gonna cling to you. They're gonna listen and respect what you're saying, right? So you're gonna
Mhm.
shine in the entrepreneurship space. When you go to your mentors and you want to shine in front of your mentors, you're gonna know your product so much that you're gonna be speaking the most illest shit to them, because you know what's cool about your industry. You
Yep.
know what's cool about your industry that's going to attract your mentor to pay more attention about what you're doing, right? And you're going to be so passionate. You're going to be so passionate. They're going to see your eyes. They're going to hear your voice. They're going to see that you're standing up and you're sitting up and you're sitting up straight when you're talking about your business and how passionate you are about your business, that's what's going to stick out more than anything else, right? So, and that all starts with you being an expert in your industry. Become an expert in what you're doing first. And if you are passionate about what you're doing, that's going to make you becoming an expert easier, becoming a business owner easier, becoming a successful business owner easier if you know your product.
All right. It's great advice, man.
Mm.
Okay, so on that note, what do you say we, end the podcast?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me. And if you have any questions or just need somebody to, just ask some questions, I'm here, man.
Definitely, man. It was great having you.
Appreciate it. Appreciate it.